Hello, my name is Vilkata, and welcome back to Pixel Perfect, episode 46. Yeah, ever since we added that title in, I can't say the name without arching the rainbow. So today we are going to do some space elevator stuff. A couple episodes ago, we finally got our aluminum up and running. And I say finally because we unlocked tier 7 and 8 of the hub such a long time ago. And since then, we have spent time backfilling all our production, but also building out our rail network and globalizing our factory. Our next real unlock is going to unlock the first item that we need for this tier of the space elevator. And at this point, the numbers really get large. So this is going to be something we want to start early because we have a lot of other big projects that we want to do for this factory, and we want these things to be running in the background so they can produce all the parts that we're going to need for the space elevator. So let me grab all the parts that we're going to need for unlocking the next milestone, and I will meet you guys at the hub. All right, here we are back at our hub. Every time I come here, I feel kind of shameful on the fact that we still have it out here in our yard which still needs to be cleaned up again. Normally I would have this in an august place of its own, but we live so much in and out of our house that I think of it as the hub instead of this, and so I never really think about moving this. But I do intend to move it, and we will at some point. Hopefully before we have everything unlocked. But anyway, we got our milestone here. Before we buy it, I want to look at what's actually in our way. First of all, I'm not going to bother with a hazmat suit right now on camera because we would have to send it, and then we'd have to sit around and wait for the rocket to come back before we could actually unlock the thing we care about. So I will unlock this at my leisure in between. In fact, probably pretty soon because inventory space is nice. But this is our next target. And I said that we couldn't unlock it before because we needed aluminum products. But additionally, we also needed radio-controlled units, which we just set up our assembly for a couple episodes ago, which makes this whole thing available. Now, this is going to give us access to drones. Drones are really cool. We're not going to talk about these right now, don't worry about it. But we will find a use for these in the future, undoubtedly. And ironically, it unlocks supercomputers, which we already unlocked through the MAM, and batteries, which are going to be required for us to do drones, which is why we're not going to bother with drones for now. Now, for today, what we are interested in is this thing right here, the Assembly Director System. So let's activate this real quick. To our customary
Milestone
ride
reached.
of
Aerial transport of resources is now possible with the use of drones, ideal for shipping across long distances.
I can't help it, I love riding this thing.
Ensure the presence of batteries at drone ports for optimal results. A new project part enables progress to the next phase.
It's a shame it doesn't take us any higher. I'd like to at least get up to the space elevator height. All right, so speaking of the space elevator, so we're going to actually go over there. Let's start jetpack. We'll use this as our jumping point. Whee! Oh, I did not get the forward momentum that I think I needed. I don't think I was running. All right, here we are at the space elevator. And these are our target numbers for all the remaining objects. Now, of course, this is the last stage currently in early access for the space elevator. There's nothing on the other side, from a content standpoint. But we want to make progress on it. Who knows, they might spring a new one on us in an update. But this is a lot of stuff. And this is going to be an incredible amount of stuff. The Assembly Director System, of which we are going to need 4,000. So let's, real quick, we want to do this here. Let's do it here. Let's go over the math real quick like what is going to be required, and I will bring up a little spreadsheet just to kind of put the numbers out. And let's see here. We'll just look real fast at what this is going to demand of us. Now we need an assembler for the final product. It only takes 2 items. The assembly director system. So this will be done in an assembler. We're not going to worry about the rates right now. We're just going to worry about the total numbers because, you know, in the past, what we've always done for space elevator parts is that we've gathered all the subcomponents together, thrown them isolated into some bins, and made exactly the amount of parts that we need for the space elevator. We don't make it part of our regular production line. And we want to do that for this as well. Some people make these as a regular thing and they sync all of them. It's just not my style. I like to make exactly the amount that we need because this is the project and then we don't need them afterwards. So we're not going to worry about the rates. We're going to worry about the total materials. And the supercomputers, 1 for 1, that's going to be 4,000, right? Because that's what we need. Not a big deal. We can handle that. The adaptive control units is where we're going to get in a little bit of trouble. All right, so we need 2 adaptive control units for 1 assembly director. And if we look at the adaptive control unit, so we produce 2 at a time, so that's perfect. That means we need 4,000 cycles of this to fulfill our need for the assembly directors, which means we need 4,000 groupings of these. 4,000 groupings of 2 computers is 8,000. Not too bad. Same goes for the heavy modular frames. Our factory can handle that already. The circuit board's a little bit more demanding. But the automated wiring is really going to be what's going to hurt us. So if we look at the automated wiring, it was 15 for 2, right? So it's 15 cycles of it. Automated wiring requires 1 stator and 20 cables. And mind you, we need 15 of these per unit. So we need 15 of these whole cycles 4,000 times over. So let's bring up the spreadsheet just so we can illustrate what's going on here. All right, so here is the breakdown. We need 4,000 assembly director systems, which is right here, which means it's going to require 8,000 ACUs, adaptive control units. And since we have to make those, because those are a space elevator item, so for 8,000 of those, at 15 per, that's going to be 60,000 automated wirings. This is pretty crazy, right? But then it gets worse because for that 60,000, we have to do, of course, 1 stator per, so that's 60,000 stators. And for the cables, yeah, you're seeing that right, 1.2 million cables. That's a lot of cables. And this is our total breakdown of everything. The reason I boxed these off is that we're making all of these as part of our factory. These we are not making, so we have to set up manufacturing for these. And then where we find appropriate, we can set up supplemental manufacturing for these. Obviously, we're definitely going to do supplemental for cable. We will probably do supplemental for stators as well. Everything else, I think that we can handle. I know 40,000 circuit boards seems like a lot, and well, frankly, it is. So we'll decide whether or not we want to do supplemental for the circuit boards. But for now, I'm focused on these 2. That's what we're going to worry about today. All right, so today we have a goal of ramping up our cable and our stator production specific for this project. So there will probably not be permanent production setups. We'll just make how many we need and then we'll move on. So let me do a little bit of prep work, and then I want to come back and we'll talk about what we're going to do to set up for all of this. And not just for the stators and the cables, but for the project as a whole. Okay, so I'm back from planning, and I didn't just do a little bit of planning, I did some prep work and just kind of working through the process. And I did a little bit more and a little bit more. And I'm like, you know what? I need to come back and talk about the decisions I've made and why I've made them before I get too far into it. You know, traditionally, when we do elevator parts, we gather all of the materials together first, or large amounts of them, and we just run them through, a set amount of cycles. And this is how we've done it in the past, right? We just load them up and let it make the exact amount. And I still want to do that because I don't want to make any extra elevator parts that we don't need. They're not going to do it here. But as we covered in the last clip there, we need a lot of material. A lot of material. So I don't think it's realistic that we gather everything together before we start manufacturing, right? 1.2 million cables are going to take a while, not only to create, but after we have them to actually run them through the machines. But in prep, what I have done is I've come down here under the warehouse, and I've taken advantage of this space to drop down an extra container for some of the materials that we're already producing so that we can store them up for that purpose. So for example, here is a container for supercomputers, one for computers. We have circuit boards, and we have heavy modular frames, and we have stators. Now, if you'll recall from last clip there, we need, what was it, like 60,000 stators? This is not going to be enough. But we're making them, they're overflowing, they're going into a sink. Why not give ourselves a little bit more room for storage so that we stop sinking them, and then we can transfer them when we're ready to a location for manufacturing. So that's what I've done down here. And I've also updated my spreadsheet to reflect how many storage containers we would need of each product throughout the chain in order to actually do the manufacturing. So you'll see here what I've done is I've recorded what the stack size is for each of these items. This is how much how much product goes into one stack. Each container can hold 48 stacks, so this is the total of material for each type that a container can hold. And of course, these are the large containers. And then finally, this is how many containers it would take in order to hold all the material. Of course, cable, 125 storage containers, which I don't see us doing that. But this gives us an idea of our scale. And, like for these products, as you can see, that's not very many containers worth, right? 1.6 containers for supercomputers, not a big deal, right? We don't need to supplement these manufacturings. They will fill up on their own. So this shows us what we really do not have to worry about. And of course, these are the only two things that are going to be a challenge. Here we are at the Encased Beams West production facility. You guys might remember this, or maybe not. We needed to buy a little bit of time. I think it was before the update 6. Or we were waiting for a mod update. I don't recall what it was. We needed to buy some time, and we knew that we were kind of low on our production rate of encased industrial beams. And so we built this big old facility over here, and then we never used it. That's not to say that we won't in the future, but currently all of the material here is going into a sink. We've never set up a train to pick this stuff up. And now that we are using Mark V belts, we don't really have as much of a need for the encased industrial beam for our building needs. So what I think I want to do is I want to partially repurpose this facility. Now, this is always going to be the facility that it is, right? It's always going to produce these encased industrial beams. That is still going to be its primary purpose. But for now, we can borrow its infrastructure for stator production. But before we walk away from the station, I want to show you what is over here. Right on the other side of the station is da-da-da, Ecoterium node. We can make quick wire here. And if we look at our stator recipes, you'll see we have a quick wire stator recipe that requires steel pipe. Now, why am I talking about using this node? Why am I talking about repurposing this building or this site for stator production? Well, as you see coming up this belt is steel pipe. We are producing a bunch of steel pipe here. In fact, I think we're producing 480 per minute steel pipe. And as we just pointed out, the stators use steel pipe. That means we don't have to set up a new steel manufacturing facility, since taking from this facility isn't harming the rest of our factory. It's not being used. All we would need to do is interrupt this incoming line of concrete and bring quick wire in, because it's still an assembler. We wouldn't have to do anything with the cabling, anything with the conveyors. We wouldn't have to do anything. We could literally just change the recipes, have it produce stators, have them go out the same output, and have it all go down to a station that we can then pick up and send them somewhere else. And somewhere else, that I also already have planned. Let's get back to our train. And here we are in the little canyon area that goes from our base down to all the aluminum production. And as you can see, I have been busy. So I found that I could snake a little bit of rail right through that opening. Isn't that nice? Just barely squeezes through. But this is now a division that we can split off. And this gives us access to the entire Dunes Desert. We can go and we can do whatever we want here. And we can definitely produce a lot of copper products here. Do a scan with copper. And we look at the map. So we have copper up here, copper over here, and this is deceptive right here. If we can get any closer. Funny, because last time I was here, I got a different result on my scan. All right, it's not showing me this time. But even if there weren't, there are copper nodes all over the place, and more importantly, there's a lot of open space for us to do any kind of assembly we want, any kind of storage, temporary warehouse for all the different products. There we go, look at that, look at that. Okay, I was just out of range of the, there's the three. So you can see there's a bunch of copper nodes right here. So I don't exactly know where we're going to build, but I think we're going to build here. Probably just put a gigantic platform, put up a bunch of storage containers, start using trains to deliver everything over here from our permanent warehouse, from the temporary stator production, and bring together a bunch of cable from various copper outposts throughout here. In fact, there's a copper node over at the stator, the future stator production facility, that we could also make some cable there. There'll be a train going to that station anyway. We could bring more cable in that way. So this is going to be a pretty good plan, I think. And we can just create a big old open platform through here, organize our storages, and then set up however many assemblers or manufacturers that we want. So I'll be right back after a whole lot of planning and building. And there we have it. There is our train stations. And, you know, it wasn't too bad, right? Because one of the great things about building in the Dunes Desert is there's so much open space that it's pretty simple to make flat platforms and we can build to your heart's content. And I went with a couple of stations because, you know, if anything, it gives us a place to park our personal train, and who knows what kind of traffic we'll have going through here in the future. Maybe at some point we'll decide we want to actually use a Dunes Desert for something other than just doing space elevator parts. You know, we haven't picked where our Fixmas stuff will be, which will probably actually be really soon. But yeah, that's it. The loop is done. It's ready to go. And I got me a tower up. And so before I turn around, I want to preface this next little bit with, if you are a regular of this channel, by now you should probably know that I am somewhat of a crazy person. And nothing that is behind me should come as a surprise to any of my regular viewers. So, before we came to this area, we talked about we need 1.2 million cables, and that would be 125 large storage containers. And that was just, absolutely, completely ridiculous, and there's no way we would do something like that, right? Absolutely no way we were going to do that. Yeah, that's 125 storage containers. And they're all linked. So it's 10 stacks of 12, which gives us our 120, and then 5 here on the end. And they are daisy chained. It is 100% daisy chained. Ignore this thing here. This is a proxy stand-in for the income of the actual cables. So our first 5 here, what they do is they weave back and forth. So this one feeds over to this one, which feeds up to the next one, and then back over, back and forth. And then once we get through the initial 5, it's purely about going all the way up to the top, coming over, all the way down, coming over, and so on and so forth. So, so say we put something in here. There goes we're picking a large object, so it's easier to spot it as it makes its way through. And of course, everything else is Mark 5 at this point. You see it coming up and up. And we're not going to bother going up there. There it goes on that one. So you can see it's not taking much time for it to get through the whole loop. But this is just proof that it will make the whole loop. Of course, if we look at this over here, and there it is at the end of the line. All right, so we can now store 1.2 million cable. And there's going to be a fair amount of space here used for the production of the cable. And what I've done is I've done the math for using both copper and iron wire. So if we go wire. Oh, look at here, my blueprints show up now. Oh, that's so cool. When we do a quick search, we see our blueprints. We'll go over that in a minute. But we have 2 recipes for wire. And the copper one is the more efficient one. But we have a ridiculous amount of iron in the area. So if we look at the map, now that we have a radar tower up, you can see, look at all this. Almost all of that is iron. I have just gone through and I've hit all of the copper nodes right here, here, and here. And I know you're saying, wait a minute, there was a 4th one. Yes, feel free to scroll back in the earlier point in the video. There was definitely 4 of them. Now that I've placed these 3 miners, that 4th one disappeared. I mean it. It's not that it's out of range of the radar tower. It's not there. So I just don't know. But I scoured the area looking for it, and it's just clearly not there anymore. It was a ghost. I don't know. We are definitely in range for the ping, and it's just gone. So I don't know. It doesn't matter. We don't care. And I've grabbed 3 of the closest pure iron. Let's see here. Yeah, that one right there. See, it's pure iron. That one and that one. And obviously we could go further, but it's not necessary. And what I did is a little bit of math on what it would take to actually do all of the cable ahead of time, kind of in a reasonable time set. And if we take a look one more time real quick, like at the spreadsheet, we'll see here how much will get produced per machine, and how many minutes, hours, and days it would take to reach the 1.2 million target. So at 1 machine, 2, 4, 8, and I just kept going up. And at 16, I realized that, well, 41 hours, we'll easily be doing other things for 41 hours. That's not a big deal. And then this one right here is actually linked to this grid of, well, how many are we actually doing? So if I change this number here, it changes that. And this is the line that is going to be our true throughput. And so for this area, I think we're going to do 24 constructors. And I want to show you one more thing real quick. I did set up some blueprints. I don't know why that got out of place. All right. So what I've done is I've created a blueprint for, let's not that, let's do copper. Yeah, we are. It's pretty simple here for the copper because we have 2 wire manufacturers to create a total of 60 per minute, and then 1 here, and then requiring the 60 per minute for 1 set of cables. And I say manufacturers, I mean that generically, as in these are machines that manufacture for us. I know they're constructors. I even color-coded them. But this unit here is all we need for, 1 constructor worth of cable. When we're using copper, it's a little bit more complicated when it comes to doing iron wire because it's less efficient. And I still need to run over and get the stators up and running, something that I might not even do on camera. But let's get this going, and I'll be right back. All right, so I know that we are really out of time, but I want to show you a couple of things real fast. I will be as quick as I can about these and hopefully still thorough. First thing I want to show you is blueprinting in action. You're actually getting to see it, live instead of just in concept. Also, real quick, I want to point out I made a mistake on my spreadsheet. I had 22.5 for the iron ingots in this recipe. This was a kind of a dumb mistake because I had it right at the first time, and at some point while I was editing my spreadsheet, I saw it and thought that I had it wrong, didn't check the recipe, and changed it manually. So it will require a different setup for the iron, but basically we need a lot less iron. That's really the net of it. So in case anyone caught that or tries to replicate this, that is inaccurate, and I just wanted to correct that real quick. But we're going to put all these in place. This is 16 constructors for making iron wire, and hopefully I have enough resources on me to do this. What you got? Also, I think it's the Infinite Zoop mod was updated, and now we can draw platforms in a grid. Yay! So nice. All right, let's go to our blueprints. Not that one. We want iron wire 4. Okay. Hopefully I get this right in the first try. Let's see how we had it lined up in the bottom. Okay. That should be right in the middle, and that should be lined up just like that. Perfect. It's so easy. You see it's already all wired up and everything. And we can hide the HUD so that the item list at the bottom doesn't get in the way. Makes it easier to see where we're placing. Let's wait for that to come into place so I can see. There we go. Couldn't be easier. Oh, that is so nice. And we just need to connect those. All right, I forgot. I made a design change, which is I wanted to turn these, so that's just fine. Just like that. And actually I only need Mark 3. overwrite that for no real reason. There we go. It's ready to rock and roll. All I need to do is power the miner that will supply the iron to those smelters. And everything else is done. So we have all the conveyors done. I just left this open here so I can show you kind of what we did. Let's, in fact, might look nicer. This guy out here. We reach? Nope. All right. We're not going to wait for that to get all powered up because that's a lot of backlog of, material to store up. Also, it would help if we connect these. This is what happens when you're in a hurry. But they will all go along and they will meet up with this, which is already running here. And you see we belted over. Came down and merged with the copper set. And they're all going into the massive storage. All right, so we're done with the copper stuff, or the cable stuff for now. I want to go over the stator stuff just super fast. Also, without it running at full pace, because it wasn't all connected yet, it's already full, that one's already full, that one's already full. That guy's pretty long away, so 1, 2, 3, 4. We're about 5, 4.5 of them already full just from actually building those. That's pretty good. This is where the stators will be coming in. And it was important I had to put this station either at 4 or 5, which I will explain in just a moment. But this is 6 up, 6 down, and a half. So the 12.5 that we're going to need for our stators to be stored. And we are going to need a train. And this is going to be the last thing I want to show you. Hopefully I can interact with this train because there is a bug in a mod. Nope, I cannot. So I need to reload the game. Give me just a moment. All right, the train should be interactable now. All right, excellent, it is. So there was a change in the plan for how we're going to do the stators, just a slight change. And I really wanted to go over that change and a kind of a problem that it's going to introduce and a solution that I kind of came up with on the fly. Let's get the schedule built first. So first of all, we're not going to make quick wire at that location. Why should we? We have a quick wire station right before it. So let's add that, and then the encased industrial beams west, and then the dunes left. Now, our problem is that at the quick wire location, there are 3 stations, 3 platforms that all have quick wire on them, and we don't want to pick up all 3 of those stations. And I can't tell this to not pick up from all 3 of them. So we're going to go ahead and set up our standard. This is what we're getting here. I'll show you my proposed solution in a minute. But let's get this here. We're going to load only stators because there is other stuff there. And we're going to unload only quick wire. And then when we get back to here, we're going to unload stators. And load nothing. Well, actually, we're not going to say load nothing yet. All right. Now, there's one more thing I want to do before we leave. So I want to back this up. We only want quick wire in our 3rd train car, not our 1st or 2nd. And right now, we don't have a use for the 1st or 2nd. So what we're going to do, let's see here, is we're going to delete these. This is a theory in progress here. Cannot afford. What am I missing? I need cable. Cable. We have cable here. Give me a second. All right, cable acquired. Here is what we're going to do. We're going to delete those because that's not what I wanted to build. Fluid platform. You might see where this is going. Might see where this is going. We want a packager. Output. Let's get ourselves a splitter. Unpackaged fuel. Alright, I've canceled the docking, backed it up. Now it has dunes as the next stop, so hopefully it will auto dock this appropriately. I don't know why it's not working. Come on, I'm trying to be clever. There we go. I don't know, maybe because this wasn't the next station in the chain before, this is why I didn't pick it up. I don't know. But this is going to block any of the quick wire from coming onto those two cars, and it'll just lug around this little bit of fuel. You'll never unload it, so it'll never be a problem. It'll drop off the quick wire at the new stator location, which will then, of course, create stators, and then it will bring them back and send them into our giant storage. So I'm going to ride this around for one circuit real quick like and make sure it works, and then I will meet you guys back home for the wrap-up. We got all of the infrastructure set up that we need for the next elevator part done. And yeah, I mean, we still need to obviously put together the manufacturing chain, but the ability to bring together all of the resources is now enabled. We will also set up a scheme for delivering resources from this warehouse to over there. So that will be taken care of in the near future, but you know, as you saw at the beginning of this, we're starting to set them aside. So they don't have to be delivered to the site immediately, and it doesn't need to be a train that's running on a regular basis. We'll probably just use our personal train to lug some of that stuff over there once we got a bunch of it backed up. That's going to be it for this episode. I don't know what's going to happen next episode. We are right up on the edge of Fixmas. Fixmas will almost certainly be activated in the game by the time next episode comes out, but it may not be active by the time I'm recording the next episode. So it might be that next episode we go back to the space elevator area and set up the production chain and get all that up and running, or we might start Fixmas. We'll just have to see how things play out, or maybe a little bit of both if it's up and running. Who knows? We'll just play it by ear and see how things go. But that's part of the fun of playing the game, right? Is never really knowing what you're going to do next. There's always so many different options. But thank you very much for coming out. Be sure to leave a like and let me know, in the comment section what you think about what we're doing, just about how crazy I am doing the 1.2 million in one shot. I really, I just couldn't help it. I couldn't help it. I want to see 1.2 million worth of cables all sitting in one place. It just called to me. I had to do it. But again, thank you very much for coming out. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't, and I will see you in the next episode.